watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Lordstown Motors has a new CEO, and the announcement is making history. The electric vehicle startup appointed Edward T. Hightower into his new role, making him the first black CEO of a U.S. automaker. Mr. Hightower has also held senior executive roles with Ford, BMW, and GM, and he joins us today on today's show to discuss his new role, and we'll also get into his take on the future of electric vehicles. Something tells me he's going to be very positive about the future of electric vehicles here in the U.S. So, Edward, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule there at Lordstown Motors to join us on the show.
No, thank you very much for having me, Jim.
Sure. First and foremost, congratulations on the appointment. I think that is fantastic. I know that you've got your hands full there. Tell me a little bit about, for the people that aren't as familiar with you and your story as we are here at this show, tell our viewers a little bit about your background in the auto industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. I've been passionate about the automotive industry my entire life. I grew up in Chicago, and I was passionate about vehicles. I learned a lot to work on, a lot about vehicles from working on them with neighbors and friends of the family and with friends in the Boy Scouts. And, I studied engineering as an undergrad at University of Illinois, did my MBA at University of Michigan. And I've got 30 years of experience in the global automotive industry in a number of product development, engineering, marketing, strategy, P&L leadership roles between Ford, BMW, and GM, as you've said.
Yeah.
Also spent some time in consulting with a firm called Alex Partners, as well as my own firm. And I'm really passionate about this industry. I'm really passionate about the transition towards electrification. So I'm really excited about what we're doing here at Lordstown. I've served as the president for the last 8 months before being elected CEO, and it's an exciting time for us right now, so I'm looking forward to talking to you about it.
Sure. Well, we're excited to have you here and talk about it as well. Let me ask you this. It's 2022. I don't know what took so long in this industry. I've been in the industry for the last 40 years, and I scratch my head on this topic. But what does it mean to you to be the first black CEO in the auto industry? Why did it take so long, and what does it mean to you today?
I think what it means to me personally is, as I said, I've been passionate about this industry my entire life. I was one of those kids who kind of knew what they wanted to do very early on. When it was time to go to the library, I'd always look at books on future cars. And throughout my career, I've focused on how can I continue to learn, how can I continue to grow, and how can I add value in any particular job or any particular situation or any particular problem that I was faced with. So, I feel blessed to have had the experience that I've had, and that had the mentors that I've had, to have had the family upbringing that I've had. Sure. So, I've had many mentors, black and non-black. And those and the other executives that have paved the way for me, sure. I'm very appreciative to them as well.
Well, since you brought up mentors, who were some of your mentors in the industry?
Mm-hmm. It's always risky to start naming people because you forget
That's
someone. Right. But I would say that I had some great mentors at GM that really taught me the fundamentals of vehicle engineering. At BMW, it was really how you build a world-class brand with the products I led as a product manager at BMW. At Ford, I think I've learned a lot about the focus on quality and vehicle line profitability, not blending both the technical and the business side. I had some great mentors and great experiences there. And from my experience at Alex Partners and as an entrepreneur, it was really focusing on the fundamentals of the business, the revenue and the cost side, and how to drive profitability in urgent situations. So I've had many great, not just mentors, but role models. I think that's as important. The mentors sometimes find you, but the role models, it's incumbent on you to see, this is where I think I want to go. I really think this person is performing well in that idea, and I want to mirror or mimic, if you will, some of the things that they're doing so I can develop in a similar way. So I think across those experiences, I've had a number of great mentors and role models.
Sure. Well, it sounds like you are perfectly designed for this role and ready for it. So let's switch gears a little bit. Explain to me what the Foxconn agreement means to Lordstown Motors.
Yes. No, the Foxconn agreement, it's a great agreement for us. So as you know, in May, we finalized our asset purchase agreement. So for Foxconn to purchase the Lordstown, Ohio plant.
Right.
So it's now the Foxconn EV Systems Ohio plant. In addition, we signed a contract manufacturing agreement for them to take over. We've been preparing for the manufacture of the Endurance at the Lordstown, Ohio plant. But that's now Foxconn will take that over, and we transferred about 400 or so Lordstown employees to Foxconn as part of that transaction. But in addition to that, the part that's also exciting to me is, not only are we taking on a more asset-light business model by taking the manufacturing and that plant asset off of our books, but we also signed and we're creating a joint venture to develop future products beyond the Endurance in partnership with Foxconn. And they invested about $100 million into that JV that we formed between Lordstown and Foxconn. So it's called the MIH EV Design joint venture. So with that, we will be leveraging the Foxconn EV infrastructure or ecosystem, if you will, and the MIH consortium to create future products for our commercial fleet customers. So, we see that as a great opportunity for us. The asset light business model is a great opportunity for us and our team here. We've got a great team of engineers and purchasing teams, all vehicle subsystems, and we look forward to continuing that work beyond on the Endurance as we go into production and our future products as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I understand that you're the CEO of that entity as well, right?
Yes, I am. Yes. So I'm leading the JV as well as Lordstown. And I just got back from 2 weeks in Taiwan with the first trip back to Asia since the global pandemic, and spent about 2 weeks with the Foxconn team, really working on how to operationalize the JV, because it's only a few months old now, and how to better work with the entire Foxconn organization. They're a massive organization, leader in contract manufacturing of consumer electronics, with very strong ambitions in the EV space. So their ambitions in the EV space match our ambitions in the EV space. So it's a great partnership.
That's great. That's great. What is the Mobility in Harmony platform? Will all vehicles coming out of Lordstown, Ohio have it?
So the Mobility in Harmony, it is a consortium. It is a platform or it's a vehicle development platform that Foxconn has created, and they're bringing in a number of suppliers to participate in the creation of a shared hardware and software component set. And many of the vehicles built in Lordstown in the future will be built off of a shared hardware and software component set. So that allows small OEMs like us, like Lordstown, to gain scale without having to do it all yourselves. The Lordstown, Ohio plant, 6.5 million square feet, could build at its peak about 400,000 vehicles. For one OEM to have to do that, it's a challenge. But for multiple OEMs to share different parts of that shared component set or architecture and shared supply chain and EV ecosystem, that is the Foxconn MIH platform and the Foxconn EV ecosystem, it's going to create opportunities for smaller OEMs to gain scale by sharing components and sharing manufacturing infrastructure.
Wow, which is extremely important, right? To have an entity like that, so that you can succeed in this thing.
Yes, and we're their main. Our joint venture will be their main vehicle development partner in the United States. So we're aggressively working to define what the first product the JV will create for our commercial fleet space. And we anticipate creating products not just for us as Lordstown, but we have the capability to develop vehicles from concept through launch. And we expect to do that for other OEMs as well.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Mhm.
So you guys are making some big waves out there, and everybody's been watching the press from Automotive News to some of the car magazines and such, and right here at CBT News. So tell me about the Endurance electric pickup. I mean, that is a
Mhm.
really cool looking vehicle. And what makes it different from some of the other electric trucks out there? But tell me all about it.
Yes, yeah. So we're very excited about the Endurance. We're really looking forward to getting it in the hands of our customers because we think they're going to love it. It's going to be one of the few full battery electric full size pickups that'll be on the market later this year, about fourth quarter of this year. We'll go into production in the third quarter and go on sale in the fourth quarter of this year.
Okay.
What's unique about it is it's full battery electric and it has in-wheel hub motors. So the motors are inside each of the four wheels. So
Wow.
every truck has essentially all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
The motors are very responsive
Hmm.
on all road surfaces. And the vehicle, because it has in-wheel hub motors, we're able to have a higher degree of maneuverability and
Mhm.
handling. So our commercial fleet customers will be really excited about how tight the turning radius is,
Mhm.
how well the vehicle handles because it has a low center of gravity and a high roll center.
Okay.
Tell I'm a former chassis engineer, so I speak in those terms.
That's
But
right.
it's really remarkable how responsive it is and how well it handles. I did a drive with the engineering team back towards the end of winter in northern Minnesota, and it was amazing how well the Endurance handled on in the snow, in deep snow,
Wow.
on
That's nice.
solid
Yeah.
sheets of ice, up hills on split mute surfaces where one wheel is on the ice and the other wheel is on the pavement.
That's great.
So the ability to perform for these customers that use their vehicles for work,
Sure.
because we're commercial fleet focused, we think it's something they're going to like.
Sure. So do you think that hub motors are the future of the industry? And then the follow-up is, why did you choose hub motors or that
I
concept?
think there'll be a number of solutions. I think there's a space for hub motors and there's space for vehicles that are the traditional motor in the front, motor in the back with drive axles.
Mhm.
We see that we have an advantage because you could control the torque at each individual wheel.
Wow.
That allows the vehicle to be, as I was saying, more responsive on different surfaces. And it depends on the use case. In some use cases, you don't necessarily need all-wheel drive. In some use cases, you don't need the advantages that in-wheel hub motors give you. So,
Sure.
Your question is, are they the future? I think they have a future, but I think there's also a space in the market for the conventional setup as well.
Okay. Okay. And when will the Endurance production begin? What are the
Mhm.
deliveries look like?
So as we said in our last earnings call, Jim, in the third quarter of this year.
Mhm.
So you talked about busy. Anyone who's been in the auto industry or around vehicle launch, they know how busy of a time that is.
Sure.
Assuring that you have the supply chain in order, all of your testing is complete, assuring that any issues you have with both the manufacturing process or the product are resolved.
Right.
Those are the critical disciplines, and that our excellent team, both here in Michigan, our R&D center, and our team at the Ohio plant, we're all focusing on. We've been building pre-production vehicles for some time, but in this quarter, we still anticipate starting vehicles that we actually will sell to customers and for them to go on sale in the fourth quarter.
Sure. Speaking of customers, who's the target audience, or who's the
Mhm.
perfect customer for an Endurance?
Yeah, so no, that's a great question and an important question. So we are completely commercial fleet focused.
Okay.
So we are focused on, this truck is focused for people who actually use it for work.
Okay.
So we think our customers will appreciate the lower cost of ownership
Mhm.
from a battery electric vehicle. We think they'll appreciate the responsiveness of the in-wheel hub motors and the instantaneous torque of an EV. The vehicle feels very light on its feet. I drive them every week with the engineering team as we look at the latest PPV or pre-production vehicle builds,
Okay.
or the latest software updates. It feels very light on its feet. The customers will also appreciate the front trunk, because you don't have a massive internal combustion engine,
Right.
whether it's gas or diesel. You don't have that.
Sure.
So there's about 9.6 cubic feet of additional storage space for tools or other items that our work customers who use the truck for work can put those items.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So will there be additional models coming in the future from Lordstown?
Yes, not making any announcements today, but through the joint venture, the MIH EV Design joint venture, we plan to create additional products and add them to the portfolio for our commercial fleet customers. So, the full-size pickup truck, as you know, is the second most popular segment in the United States.
Yeah.
It's a very popular segment in the commercial fleet space as well, but there are other segments that are popular in commercial fleet as well. So we look forward to being able to share more about our future product strategy as we develop it.
Sure. What do you think about the future of EVs in the U.S.? I talk to dealers all over the country. I talk to OEM executives and such, and many of the vendors to the industry. And it's funny the different, perspectives that you'll get on the future of EVs. Some, hardcore dealers out there will say, nah, it's something that's going to represent maybe 15 or 20% of the business over the course of the next 5 or 10 years. And people still want their ICE engines. And you'll talk to other dealers that'll say, look, make the adjustment now, dealers, because in 10 years, we're going to all be selling EVs. It's good for the planet.
Yes.
It's because of more of a global situation that OEMs have got to turn to this, and consumers are increasingly interested and wanting these vehicles. What's your take on it? If we were having this discussion 10 years from now, what percentage of the vehicles do you think would be delivered would be an EV?
Yes, no, that's the right question. I think we've reached that tipping point, Jim. Obviously, the transition to electrification has had its fits and starts over the last 2 decades. But as you've seen the cost of batteries decline over time, maybe it's a little bit disrupted now due to the state of the global supply chain and the economy at present. But the trend has been down, and that's one of the driving cost. That's one of the cost drivers of a cost of electric vehicles, is the cost of batteries. But if you look at a lot of the data, you see different regions of the world, or even the state of California, how the penetration of EVs just continues to skyrocket.
That's right.
You also look at customer data, and many of the customers who drive EVs, they're like, they love them. And
they're passing by that $5 gallon of gas.
Oh my gosh,
gas stations, just waving, saying hello, everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they don't go back. They don't go back. And, I drive an EV myself, and I don't anticipate going back. I really
Let's hope not, if you're the new CEO of Lordstown.
Yes. But, it's once you get used to the torque and the one pedal driving, when I get back into an ICE vehicle and I'm coming to a stoplight, I'm like, wow, I'm wasting all of this energy instead of putting it back into a energy storage device like a battery.
Sure.
So
that's interesting.
I think we've reached a tipping point. As more products come to market and costs continue to go down, the share will grow. And
Lordstown will deliver their units through a direct-to-consumer approach versus franchise dealers?
Right. We don't anticipate having franchise dealers because we're commercial fleet focused.
Okay.
We will work directly with some key customers. Our initial production batch, we're focusing on some key customers that could be strong users of the product and advocates of the product and brand. And we think that's the right strategy for us. I mean, our mission is really to accelerate the adoption of electrification, or the transition towards electrification.
Sure.
And why we focus on commercial fleet is because these are the vehicles that get used the most.
Yeah.
So you see the data on stories on, the average person's, their car sits 95% of the time, unless you're driving to work, driving home. Yeah. Or you're asleep.
It's crazy. There. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So commercial fleet, we want to have a greater impact on miles driven by converting more commercial fleet miles from ICE vehicles to commercial fleet driving in a BEV vehicle. We're having a greater impact there.
Sure. So I would imagine your R&D team is working feverishly on autonomous vehicles, right, as well?
Yes, we haven't announced anything on autonomous vehicles. I think those are the future as well. I believe the transition to autonomy will be much later than electrification, and the path to autonomy will first go through the path to electrification first.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, Edward T. Hightower, new CEO of Lordstown Motors. Congratulations again, sir. And thank you so much for spending some time with us here at CBT News. We very much appreciate it. Best of luck to you in your new position. We'd love to do a follow-up interview with you to see how things are moving along.
Okay, that sounds great, Jim. And thank you again for having me on your program.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.